Hello and welcome to my second vlog. This is a beautiful sunny day and I'm riding out through Birkhill past my local petrol station and Asda Express, and on my way through Dundee, across the Tay, and stopping for a quick coffee and a hot dog at a local biker hangout, as I understand it. Anyway, so here we are, we're heading out. It's a glorious sunny day, and today I'm going through the centre of the city. These are really familiar roads to me. Drive them nearly every day, so I find my confidence is a lot higher. Anyway, a beautiful day. I did go out the other day, but unfortunately the video kind of had a few technical problems and just wouldn't export when I brought it into iMovie, etc. So, and I think this is going to be a far more interesting film than that would have been, so probably a happy result. We're just starting to see the first signs of spring up here in Scotland, so I'm going to say snowbells, but they're not snowbells, snowdrops. The snowdrops are coming through. Not yet seeing any signs of the daffodils. They tend to be about a month and a half later. But as you can see, the leaves are totally off the trees, a mix of being at the tail end of winter now and the result of the storms that have come through and just blown anything that is loose down and off the trees. On our left, we're passing the Templeton Woods golf course and Templeton Woods themselves, and on the right we've got the top end of Camperdown Park, and in there apparently there's a really nice sort of animal, not quite zoo, but one of these areas where they've got various different types of animals, some native and some foreign, that apparently is very good, and one day I must pop in there and take a look at it. So let's talk about how the AJS Tempest Scrambler is going. To be honest, I've been really impressed with how it's stored up over the winter, and how little rust is generated on it. The bike is stored outside under an Oxford cover, and yep, just up on the left hand side I just brought up the map of where we're going today. You know, and you can always go there and pause if you want the details, but it's a pretty easy and obvious route if you know Dundee at all. Anyway, we're coming up to the Camperdown roundabout, and one of the lovely things across this route is the visibility I have for junctions. So they're really nicely set up, and on the bike it's easy to see what's coming on. We'll come back to how the AJS is going on as we're going over the major roundabout across the Kingsway, which is a big sort of northern, not a ring road, but bypass road, dual carriageway around the top end of Dundee. Sort of 40 mile an hour limits, and helps you avoid anything in the centre. But as you can see, it's not exactly busy on a Sunday morning. This is just about 11 AM and there's really not a lot of traffic. And again, we're just outside one of the northern industrial parks, and beautiful visibility for that junction. Okay, we're coming into sort of the top of Lochie, and then we'll be going through Lochie, making our way towards the city centre. The AGS, how has it been? Well, being under a cover, you know, it's got exposed to damp, although it hasn't got wet per se. And I'm really impressed. Very few of the chrome parts have expressing any kind of rust on them whatsoever. And really the only place it's got any noticeable corrosion is the linkage gear for the rear brake, and that's kind of, I guess the best description's furry, but it's not bad, and a little bit of metal polish and that'll come up beautifully again. The chain wasn't too bad, and what I did in preparation for the previous ride is give the chain a really good clean with some degreaser, etc., and then put on lube and made sure that's come up really nicely. And again, although the chain prior to cleaning looked a little bit rusty, as soon as I degreased, scrubbed it down, and then put the lube on it, it looks near enough brand new as you should expect. It's, you know, it's only done a couple of 100 miles with me. Okay, we're waiting at some traffic lights, and hopefully you've noticed that my braking has improved, my anticipation for junctions, etc. And because I know the roads, I'm concentrating less on what's coming up and focusing more on my riding style, etc. Very nice old chap crossing the road here. He couldn't have timed it close to the lights going green as stepping off the pavement, but who's in a rush? And nice to let him go without traffic bearing down on him. So we're coming down into sort of just the edge of the centre of Lochee. Lochee's an interesting section of the city. 10-15 years ago, quite a lot of drug problems, quite a lot of violence, but less so these days. And then it's still hasn't had a lot of regeneration. There's some more modern flats going up, etc. But it's now a bit of a maker's hub in various places, and it's kind of an upcoming section. But it's still got, as you'll see as we come to the brow of this hill, it's still got some of the old Industrial Revolution buildings still intact, as you can see here. Quite often these lights go against you, so you have some pauses, but today we're getting a pretty clear run through until we get up to this main junction. So how's the AGS running? It's running really well. Had it stall out on one of the runs when I was hadn't really warmed it up. I stopped to set the camera off, etc. It was ticking fine, and then just sort of stumbled a little bit, but started up perfectly. It's been running really nicely. It's been handling well. It's not using a lot of oil. I haven't got a clue how the fuel is doing, but I'll look at that when the next time the light comes on, which will probably be an age. And generally, I mean, the only other piece is all the lights have been working fine, and tyre pressures, you know, I probably lost 4 or 5 psi over the whole of the winter. I've been topping up each time I've gone for a ride, and checking those through. So yeah, overall really pleased with how the bike's handling itself. I'm getting used to its quirks, particularly the knobbly tyres. But as I said, being on familiar roads, being on roads that I trust the condition of a lot more, I was a lot more comfortable riding through here. And perversely, the traffic here isn't really bothering me. Now that might be because there really isn't a lot of traffic, but it's also probably more my sense of road usage from years and years of driving cars. And I'm not finding being surrounded by vehicles that worrying, to be honest with you. Obviously keeping an eye out for people that are doing stupid stuff, but I tend to do that when I'm in the car anyway. And on the whole, drivers around Dundee aren't that bad. They're not particularly aggressive. You get the odd boy racer, etc., but you can hear them, you can spot them a mile off. And generally, yeah, it's you know, especially on a Sunday morning, it's a pleasure to ride through. We've got a lovely sweeping descent coming on now as we come out of Lochee and sort of head down into the outskirts of the centre of the city. You see a lot of the sort of flat and apartment buildings there on your right in various states of repair. And you can see how much parkland and green space there is in and around Dundee. Although it was a highly industrial city, it was blessed with numerous parks and plenty of bits of green space. Now, one of the things you may have just noticed there is I went through the amber, and one of the things I looked at on this ride, knowing the number of sets of traffic lights that we'll be going through, is really trying to anticipate those changes, and if they do start to change on me, understanding who's behind, what's up front, how clear the junction is, whether I put the brakes on hard to come to a stop or go through as quickly as possible. And you'll see on a couple of the junctions here, I took the judgment to go through, didn't go through on a red whatsoever, but decided I'd have more control and represent less of an issue to any drivers around me if I just twisted the throttle and got through the junction as quickly as possible. So you've got a sort of inner city industrial zone, and it's all light industry these days. There's very little heavy industry left around the city, which is no surprise, but that's down to the left. There's some great upcycling warehouses and that type of thing, and lots of artist studios down there, and that make a creative environment that Dundee is thriving on. This large building coming up right in front of us on the roundabout is part of the Tay University. Dundee has two universities. It has Dundee University and the newer Tay, and the Tay is very famous for its computing degrees. Now, those computing degrees are primarily focused around the gaming industry and the art side of computing, whereas Dundee, it still has some of that, but what Dundee University itself offers is the more traditional computer engineering style degrees. So together they make a perfect integration. They are incredibly close to each other in terms of campuses, and they share various aspects. So we're now coming into the heart of the city centre, and as you'll spot, there's a mixture of older buildings and more modern buildings. Dundee's history is fascinating. It was a walled medieval city. Apparently those walls were destroyed by Cromwell, and Dundee was a bit of a royalist hangout. And then in modern times, a lot of the older Industrial Revolution buildings have been torn down. I mean, Dundee had hundreds and hundreds of mills, and replaced with quite brutalist architecture. And then Dundee's coming away from that with some landmark buildings, etc., such as the V&A, which we'll see on the return trip a little bit. Here you've got the modern Overgate shopping centre with a deserted Debenhams, and we're literally just coming on a sort of inner ring road, if you like, around the central shopping area of Dundee on your right, and then coming up on the left here we're just passing Perth Road, which leads up to the main Dundee University entrances, but is also quite a bar and student environment. Okay, we're coming at the bottom of the ring road, and just on our left we're edging on the outskirts of the new low emission zone. And then you can see on your right Dundee rail station, and on your left, just coming up here, the Malmaison Hotel. And as you saw, that was one of those junctions where I decided, as the lights changed, to make sure I just pass through the junction as quickly and smoothly as possible. Changing lanes here was great. The drivers paid good attention to me. The L plates were probably doing their job, and I felt no real problems of moving out from that left hand side onto the right hand side. But again, it's not exactly busy. Okay, the lights are against us here, and we are just up to the entrance to the Tay Road Bridge. And that connects Dundee City with Fife, the Kingdom of Fife, and the little car park and cafe that we're heading towards is just on the other side of the bridge. So setting off here, and shortly there's going to be major roadworks. This is the old carriageway, the old surface of the carriageway, and that's basically been in place and repaired and updated since the bridge was opened in the 60s. And when we return, we're on the brand new carriageway, and what they've done on the other side is they have literally stripped back to the concrete foundations of the bridge, made sure the bridge is in really good condition, and then built up the road surface from scratch. And they'll be doing that on this carriageway in the next few weeks for about 6 months. Anyway, we have the beautiful Tay. This side of the bridge, today the wind was coming in from the west. This is the eastern face, if you like, of the city, looking out to the east. And the bridge kind of shelters you from the wind quite a lot. Typically, the bridge is 50-mile-an-hour limit. And, you know, it's a great 1.3 miles span. And you get fantastic views over the Tay. At the left here in the distance, you can probably make out what looks like little oil rigs, etc. And Dundee's still got quite a thriving dock area. It does quite a lot of engineering refurbishment works, and there's a major hub where the wind turbines are loaded onto vessels which are taken out into the North Sea and turned into wind farms. And you know, that's a regular sight, is seeing these loaded up transport ships with the columns and the blades and the turbines going up and down the Tay. But it is, on a day like this is a glorious little joint as you go through. We can see the hills of Fife coming up in the distance, and the northern part of Fife is quite hilly. It's got some amazing, I guess, mountains in there as well, and at some point we'll need to head off into those and start exploring the roads. But we're coming on to the exit of the bridge now, and just down to the left, as I'm panning in with the camera, this is the car park and where the cafe is. So onto the roundabout, again, really nice visibility through. And as I sort of cancelled the indicator, I managed to hit the horn, but at least only occasionally on this trip rather than every other time. Now, I took this corner a little bit hesitantly. And as we come into the car park, and the reason I was hesitant there is it doesn't really show on the camera. It's actually quite a runaway hill as you come down into that, and then as it's marked out, it's pretty much a 90-degree bend, and I just felt more comfortable coming in slowly, making sure that we didn't have any urgent braking or anything like that, and there wasn't anything particularly that I was holding up or causing concern to. Okay, coming into a car parking space. This is pretty seen motorcyclists on a Sunday morning earlier park up in lines, seen as many as 20 here before, and that building in the distance is where the cafe is. And I'm just wheeling the bike back, spinning her round, side stand down, and killing the engine. Well, it was a great ride. Really good on the confidence. No concerns anywhere really on the way down. Please give me any comments on if you spotted anything I'm doing badly. But here you can see the fantastic skyline of Dundee City in the distance. So I had a nice coffee and a hot dog with onions and ketchup and mustard. So I managed to drip all the way down my hands. But at $5.75 for everything was fantastic value. And now we're heading back out. A little bit of traffic here because there are some roadworks off to the left on a three-way signpost. And then wasn't totally sure what I was facing up at the roundabout. The sat-nav was telling me the roadwork diversions, which will close off this roundabout effectively and put a contraflow in, were in place. But obviously they weren't. So off we go and through, and again excellent visibility, so very happy at how this came through, and then decided there's no point in getting fast because of the bus that was in front of me. So we're coming towards the end of the video. I took exactly the same route back up, but I thought you'd enjoy seeing the other side of the Tay Bridge and the other views. Now, as you can probably hear, you're a lot more exposed to the wind on this side, and it was moving me around a little bit, so I kept myself pretty much to 40 miles an hour. That's what felt comfortable to me. The other carriageway isn't bad, it's not full of potholes, it's a bit rougher, but this was glorious new tarmac that's just totally smooth apart from those expansion joints. And other than a little bit gusty, it's just glorious to sit here and just look at that sky. Obviously in real life you get a far better sense of the city coming up, etc. But here it captures the essence of it and you can see that. But this is a lovely way to come in and see Dundee, especially if it's your first time visiting here. So the tide was fairly high, so you don't see the sandbanks, etc. But we do get a good view of these type of things. And seagulls, as you just saw, tend to sort of hover and use the thermals and the updrafts just to fly along the edge of the bridge and just take a rest, I guess. But it is a rather glorious sight along here. And then again you're starting to see how the riverside moves along, and you may have been able to pick out the Tay Road Bridge further along the Tay. Another seagull passing. And another one just flying along. Right, just out to your left that I'm panning slowly towards is the Victorian Albert Museum that's in Dundee. It's a really glorious building. We'll take a closer look in future videos, and great exhibitions etc. are held there, and that riverfront area is really nice on a sunny day. So we're coming off the bridge. I'm going to leave you in a second. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe and ring that bell. It'd be nice to build a following here, and I'd really appreciate any comments that you have on my riding or the videos, etc. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it.